every home cook should have a Bolognese recipe up their sleeve. We're always trying to get our kids to eat more vegetables. And if we're out at a restaurant or a school event, the kids aren't eating a lot of vegetables. So when we're home, I want to load them up with veggies. And this Bolognese sauce does exactly that. It's a huge hit with the kids. Then there's the convenience of freezing it for later. This is why every home cook should have a Bolognese recipe. So let's jump right into this.
Now I've been working on this recipe for about a decade or so, and I'm pretty happy with the way it is right now. I use 5 different vegetables in this one: onion, carrot, celery, fennel, and sweet potato, which I'll get to in just a bit. But first I'm going to start off by throwing 4 of the vegetables into a food processor. All you have to do is roughly chop your onion, your carrot, your celery, and the fennel, and stick it into the processor. I'll put the exact portions in the description below. But this really speeds up the process. Just stick it in there along with about 5 cloves of garlic, and then pulse it about 10 to 12 times until everything is nice and small like this. It's kind of hard to reach this level with just a knife. Now back to the sweet potato. This is one of my secrets for this recipe, is to roast the sweet potato separately. And this is to bring out its natural sweetness. I think the extra step is worth the effort. So you're just going to dice it into small cubes, and then you're going to place it into a roasting pan, drizzle some oil over there, season it with some salt and pepper. Then you've got 2 options. You can simply roast it in the oven at about 425 for 20 minutes. Or if you've got an air fryer, you can toss it in there and cook it for about half that amount of time at 400 degrees. Either way you roast them, you just want to get some color on those potatoes. And while that's happening, you can get your meat going. I'm using 1.5 pounds of ground beef here and 1 pound of Italian sausage. I just really like the flavor that it adds, but you could also just use beef, you could use lamb, you could use bison. Simply use whatever works best for you. Now here I'm just peeling off the casing from the sausage, putting it into my bowl, and I'm just going to mix it up a bit and then add a little bit of seasoning. Some sea salt, some black pepper, some garlic powder, and some dried oregano. And I'll put all this in the description below, of course. Alright, it's time to bring everything over to the stove and start cooking. So put a pot over low to medium heat, place in 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and then pour in your vegetables. And to that you're going to add 2 generous pinches of sea salt. And you're just going to slowly start cooking that down, stirring it every once in a while. Then get another pan on the stove, this time over high heat. Put just a touch of oil in there and get your meat in there so it can start to brown. Now as your meat is cooking, I just have one important tip, and that is to let it caramelize. The meat's going to brown within 7 to 8 minutes, but then give it a few extra minutes to reach this caramelization. You want a little bit of color on that. See these little bits here? That's going to add texture and so much flavor to your bolognese. And once you've achieved some caramelization, then pour in 2 cups of red wine. And this is going to deglaze your pan and add a lot of flavor. And while that wine is working its magic, go back to your vegetables and add in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and give it its final stir. Then grab those sweet potatoes out of the air fryer, and now we're going to add everything together. So pour your meat into the vegetables, and by now the wine will have pulled up all that delicious flavor from the bottom of the pan. Then add in those roasted sweet potatoes. And finally, pour in 4 cups of chicken stock. And if you don't have stock on hand, that's fine. Just use water, it'll work just fine. You just need some liquid in there. Bring the sauce to a simmer, then place in a handful of fresh thyme. Now you could tie that all together with some string or some twine, but I unfortunately have a cat named Lannister who is obsessed with string, so no string is safe in my house. So I'll just have to be okay with fishing out those stems later. But once that's in there, turn down the heat to low, place a lid on there, leaving a little bit of space for steam to escape, and let it cook for 45 minutes to an hour, keeping an eye on it and stirring it every once in a while. And if at any time you seem a little low on liquid, go ahead and add about a half a cup of stock to it. You want to be able to see the liquid, but you're not making soup, you're making a meat sauce. So just use your best judgment there. After about an hour, your whole house will be smelling amazing, and your bolognese will be done and looking delicious. You'll still see bits and pieces of the sweet potato that are still there, but the rest of the vegetables have melted into that delicious sauce. And one of the huge benefits of bolognese is that it freezes so conveniently and easily, and you can pull it out anytime to make a quick meal, which I'll show you a couple examples of that in just a moment. And you can freeze it in one of these containers, or you could also put it into a Ziploc bag so it'll lie flat, and this way it'll defrost even faster.
Give it a taste. Oh wow. The flavor is incredible. It's rich, it's savory, got that hint of sweetness from the sweet potato. I mean, this will be good on anything.
I mean, you could serve this over mashed potatoes, you could put it in a shepherd's pie. Obviously, it's good on any variety of pasta that you would like. You could also serve it up next to some rice with a nice slaw to go with it. There really are a ton of options. Tonight I'm serving it up over some toasted baguette. Then I'm sprinkling a little cheese on top and then serving it next to a nice salad with a homemade dressing. And now we gotta serve it up to the kids and see what they think.
Alright guys, go ahead and try the Bolognese.
Okay. It's meaty. I like this. I love this. Yeah.